2 hours. That's all it took to flip Caracas from fortress to open door. Night Stalker rotors low, precision strikes up top, and a high-value target pulled from chaos. In this breakdown, you'll see how a tight SOF footprint hit Fuet Tuna and La Carlo in sequence, then moved fast enough to beat the city's reaction cycle. We'll map the route, the timing, and why Venezuela's S-300 umbrella didn't matter when the first blows landed. Stay to the end to judge for yourself. Was this an invasion or a surgical extraction with a clock ticking loud?
His wife. Consider this. It reportedly involved months-long spy missions, drones, and even blowtorches.
The Venezuelan regime, inside the Maduro regime, and clocking all of his movements right down to his pets, as a matter of fact, according to the general. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, kind of laid out exactly how that happened. There were CIA informants that were working inside.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You can hide in a city of millions until the net tightens faster than you can move. Tonight, that net shrank from a skyline of lights to one door with a hinge that mattered. Dense streets cut lines of sight. High-rises bounce signals. Security details overlap, hand off, and loop back. The target moves on a variable rhythm. Never the same route twice. Never the same stop for long. Decoys run ahead to soak up attention. Escorts swap vehicles mid-block. You, watching from above and below, don't chase the convoy. You chase the behavior. But then the signals fight each other. A motorcade flashes through avenues with the right badges, but throws the wrong heat. Thermal shows a cool cabin where a warm body should sit.
So what we saw was a multi-layered attack, is what the military would call it. 150 different aircraft from 20 different bases. The Delta Force, these are commandos, Army Delta Force commandos, they were coming in low level, about 100 feet off the sea. B-1 bombers, even drones were brought in. And this was to provide air cover, air support. So when they went in with...
Meanwhile, intercepted chatter splits to two safe houses that both sound plausible. And then the city goes dark, power cut across a grid segment. A trap if defenders want you blind. A gift if they just strip their own cameras. So the team layers sources. Overhead ISR pans for rooftop heat blooms where a watch team would wait. Those small pools that don't match household use. Ground tips feed in from people who notice when trash pickup shifts or when a corner kiosk stays closed late. Pattern of life tools unwind courier habits. When meals move, when fuel drums show up, when a phone that usually roams stays quiet inside a radius. The point isn't a single hit. It's the echo across feeds. Time-sensitive targeting compresses here. ISR, cyber mapping, and law enforcement databases cross-check addresses, utility accounts, and vehicle histories without tripping local counterintelligence. You validate an entry point by stacking weak signals until they behave like a strong one. Every minute shaved cuts the chance of a last-second move. Every query runs quiet to avoid lighting alarms. Precision beats speed only if you fuse both.
Compound. As a matter of fact, they built a replica of the compound and had rehearsals of exactly what was going to go on. This air cover. In came the helicopters with the Delta commandos on board. Blowtorches, if they needed to get into those steel doors, they would have done it. They had to fight their way in, and they had to fight their way out.
Meanwhile, a decoy motorcade runs hot and fast, throwing escort bikes, blocking cars, and short halts to seed sightings. It looks right at a glance. It feels wrong when the radio discipline gets too perfect. Across town, one residential node stays clean. No dog barks. No late TV glow. No rideshare drops. Static, polished, off-pattern for the neighborhood. Too clean for a normal night. Suspicious by absence. Night shrinks the target's choices. Fewer civilians mean fewer screens and fewer excuses for movement. Guard rotations settle into predictable quarters. Sensors like infrared catch sharper contrast, the way a match stands out in a tunnel. You push now because darkness strips their noise and amplifies yours only if you let it. With emissions control and tight comms, you let sensors do the talking. The grid narrows. A cluster of structures stands out. blocked skylights that choke overhead angles, interior spaces that act like shielded rooms, and a generator that spikes at odd intervals as if masking other draws. The pattern says we're looking at a bunker dressed as a house. Doors show fresh paint and hardware. Cameras sit where neighbors don't bother. The map tightens to one parcel. One probable entry. Cross cues confirm. Rooftop temps align with a two-man watch. A side alley gets brief footfalls at the same minute each hour. The generator drops right before a vehicle arrives, then surges after. You mark the hinge and the latch. You mark the quiet window that never opens. No broad sweep. No block rate. A surgical capture cuts risk, cuts collateral, and keeps the timeline intact. Answer the how. ISR stacked with behavior maps, decoy filtering, and database crosschecks converged on a single verifiable node. The likely door isn't a guess. It's the last piece in a solved maze. With the door selected, the next fight isn't the lock. It's the sky above it, and whether it stays yours long enough to get in and get out.
So from the moment they breached that compound to the moment that they got, Maduro and his wife.
And Rubio said it would effectively be too difficult, too challenging for the military to successfully do 5, what they call snatch and grab.
But in addition to that, there were a few Americans that were injured. As I said, they had to fight their way in and to fight their way out.
2 hours. That's the leash. Beat the capital's reaction cycle or face it head-on. The clock doesn't lie, and every second after breach tilts the field against you. The window starts before the first rotor lifts. Pre-planned strikes line up on key nodes, not to level them, but to cut nerves. You move, you hit, you leave. If the exit slips, you trade stealth for a firefight across the city.
But in addition to that, there were a few Americans that were injured. As I said, they had to fight their way in and to fight their way out.
But I knew there was great danger. They got off the helicopter and the bullets were flying all over the place. As you know, one of the helicopters got hit.
Huge amount of U.S. military firepower that was in that region before these raids will continue to be there. And
Caracas sits under layered coverage. 300 batteries, legacy radars, human spotters with phones. Rotary wing at low level risks all of it. A blip on a scope, a friendly gun truck startled into a trigger pull, small arms from a balcony. Delay feeds the defenders time to think. Thinking kills quiet raids. So the helos hug the land. Terrain masking does the heavy lift. Valleys swallow noise. River lines give clean, flat corridors to ride. Urban canyons hide a profile inside concrete and glass, where radar beams skim past rooftops and miss the void between. Nap of the earth means blades near tree lean, eyes locked on wires, bridges, and stray spires. It's a knife-edge flight, but it buys invisibility.
Air cover. In came the helicopters with the Delta commandos on board. Blowtorches, if they needed to get into those steel doors, they would have done it. They had to fight their way in, and they had to fight their way out.
Strikes fall on nodes that matter. Few at Tuna and La Carlo aren't about craters. They're about silence. C2 links snapped, runway access denied. Quick reaction jets blocked by jammed doors and dark towers. You don't need total destruction. You need paralysis, the kind that forces the defense to whisper instead of shout. Electronic warfare widens the gap. Emissions control keeps the raiders quiet. Jammers and deceptive tools shape dead air pockets where radar paints ghosts or paints nothing. Defenders default to human calls. I saw lights. I heard a thump, and the plot devolves into noise. A sensor net that once stitched a clean map phrase into guesses. At H-hour, the big missile sticks underperform. S-300 can swat high, fast, and straight. Low, slow, and mass turns that blade into a club. The geometry breaks lock quality. The timing pressure strains crews. Decoys tease search modes away from the real approach. Engagement windows shrink to seconds, and seconds aren't enough when profiles vanish at the next ridge line. Meanwhile, the city's airbases can't launch in time. La Carlo's runway access is denied. Ground crews fumble with darkened systems. Even if an interceptor taxis, it needs a picture, a vector, a clearance. None of that beats a raid measured in minutes. By the time the plot firms up, the helos have bled into the next shadow. Insert team hits the target. Outer rings hold intersections, cut likely quick responders, and shape lanes for exfil. The breach starts a second clock. Risk grows by the minute. Team inside clears rooms, locks the package, and calls load times tight to the second. Outside, every siren and flash builds pressure. Night isn't for drama, it's for advantage. Visual detection drops. Civilians stay home. Guard rotations tick on schedule. Thermal sensors pull crisp contrast. Hot engines, warm bodies, cold streets. Sensor-to-shooter stays short because coordination is simple. Short calls, known routes, pre-briefed contingencies, no chatter. How did the hello slip through? Low-level flight beat radar. Terrain masking shaved sight lines. Synchronized strikes fractured the picture, so defenders chased shards instead of a hole. Dead Air Force spot reports that came late and wrong. So was this a broad push or a ghost raid? The plan reads like extraction. Hit what you must. Ignore what you can. Load fast. Leave faster. The silhouette of an invasion lingers only if you miss the clock. Comment your choice below.